quoting rents and the market dynamics in a specific location. Speaking to the agents involved may give you further leads on completed deals nearby. Speak to active local and national agents in the area. Some online databases have a search function to identify which agents have recently done deals in an area. You are likely to locate evidence not published on the online databases this way, including rent reviews, regears, and off-market transactions. Use an online database, such as the requirement list, to identify active requirements in the area and the levels of rent that tenants might pay. Look at nearby properties in the area that could be potential comparables, and use the land registry to identify landlord or tenant contacts, or to download available leases. You must speak to the agent involved with each comparable identified to verify the facts. Ideally, speak to both parties as they often have different analyses or views. As part of your discussions and due diligence, you should record the following details. Address. Type of property. Tenure, i.e., freehold or leasehold. Location. Lease terms if applicable. Brief description. Floor areas. Transaction type and date. Value and any incentives. Analysis. Parties involved. Source of information. Any issues relating to reliability. Date the evidence was verified. Having a simple template pro forma to record key details is best practice. This can then be saved on your file for future reference. You will then need to analyze your comparable evidence. Analyze the net effective rate, i.e., taking any incentives into account. Collate evidence in a schedule or matrix. Adopt a common measurement or comparison standard. Adjust quantitatively and qualitatively using the hierarchy of evidence and other vital considerations, including your knowledge and experience. Analyze the evidence to form your opinion of value. Stand back and look to sense-check the final valuation figure. Report your opinion to the client, including any negotiation strategy or quoting terms. You can apply these data management principles to any instruction or project. Candidates will undoubtedly be aware of artificial intelligence, AI tools, such as ChatGPT. Under no circumstances should you attempt to use these to write your submissions, or to write unedited copy for instructions, reports or projects. AI might be helpful for preliminary desktop research, but it is no substitute for the knowledge and human intelligence that a surveyor brings to their work. There is also an inherent plagiarism risk with the use of AI tools, which will be picked up by Turnitin when written work is submitted through the Borix assessment platform. Data security. The data you collect must be stored securely within your firm's IT system. You should read your firm's IT and data management policies and be ready to discuss these in your interview. Ways that you can keep data secure include firewalls, passwords being changed every 30 days, or as per your firm's IT policy, not leaving devices unattended or visible in your car or on your desk, using discrete departmental drives to avoid wider sharing of information, thus helping to prevent or manage conflicts of interest between departments, encryption, virus protection, including on mobile and Apple devices, not opening and alerting your IT team to suspicious email attachments or links, being cautious about sharing on social media, backing up data, applying automatic updates, which may provide additional security features, using two-step verification. There are a variety of data security threats that you may encounter. Ransomware. This is malware that encrypts and threatens to destroy, remove access to or publicly post data, unless a victim makes a payment, which often increases as time elapses. Phishing and whaling, also known as CEO fraud. This is a malicious attempt to acquire sensitive information by masquerading as a trustworthy source via email, text or pop-up message, or to coerce someone into making a money transfer. The exploitation of software vulnerabilities. These are flaws, glitches or weaknesses discovered in software. Insider threat. This is where an employee causes a data breach, either by mistake or on purpose. Hacking. Loss or theft of equipment. Electronic signatures are also becoming more popular, with the Land Registry accepting these in certain circumstances. There are various data security issues when using electronic signatures, so only secure forms should be used. Data security is also a key consideration when managing a conflict of interest using an information barrier. Borix defines an information barrier in their professional statement Conflicts of Interest, first edition, as the physical and/or electronic separation of individuals or groups of individuals within the same firm that prevents confidential information passing between them. In the Ethics, Rules of Conduct and Professionalism chapter, you can read more about conflicts of interest. An information barrier could be used where different departments in the same, usually a larger, firm are acting for two or more clients on the same property. All clients must have given written informed consent to manage the conflict of interest using an information barrier. The information barrier must prevent any communication of information relevant to the instruction between the various departments, including any administrative resource. The firm will need to ensure that access and data security protocols are implemented in relation to both physical and electronic files, typing resources, printers, access to email and other data sources. In practice, this could include locked filing cupboards, password-protected access and separate administrative resources for each department. Social media. Social media has become increasingly popular, with the property and construction industry adopting it as the norm. Popular social media platforms include LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, forums, podcasts, and blogs. However, different platforms will have different purposes and uses, with some being more appropriate for business than others. LinkedIn in particular is an excellent business tool that can provide a visible online CV for surveyors and the opportunity to connect with other professionals, clients, and key stakeholders. Social media has many benefits to businesses, such as networking, information sharing, business generation, marketing, advertising, raising awareness, reaching a wider audience, and collating reviews and recommendations. Borix published a regulation paper on the use of social media, Guidance for Borix Members version 1. This is because the line between surveyors' personal and professional lives often becomes blurred online. The Borix Rules of Conduct require surveyors to promote trust in the profession and treat others respectfully. This applies to our online presence and communications, not just face-to-face or traditional media, such as emails, letters, and meetings. This does not mean that surveyors should not have an online presence and use this to express their opinions, messages, and values. However, we need to take responsibility for our online presence and ensure that we remain professional and respectful when we post. Borix may investigate a social media post that adversely impacts public confidence or trust in the profession. This includes posts that are discriminatory, which would also breach the Equality Act 2010, dishonest, abusive or threatening, bully, harass or victimize another person or people, show a pattern of frequent or a high number of concerning posts, ignore previous advice or warnings about Borix concerns, or a request from Borix to remove a post. Borix will not investigate posts that are critical of an organization or its policies and performance, provided that they use professional and respectful language. However, if the criticism is of an individual, they may investigate. Social media posts by surveyors on their personal accounts may fall within the remit of Borix regulation if they are extreme or highly offensive. Furthermore, approval for or sharing others discriminatory posts may also lead to investigation by Borix. Following an investigation, Borix may take disciplinary action in serious cases. Data systems and databases, including building information modeling (BIM) and technical libraries. An electronic document management system, EDMS, is software, usually a cloud/online database, which collectively stores comprehensive data and documents. This is an alternative to paper files or a simple electronic folder-based system. EDMS relies on sound data management principles being followed, such as controlling access using user accounts and passwords, having naming conventions for documents, keeping a record of distributed and disposed data, having user procedures in place, Having process sheets, for example, for setting up new files or folders. Having processes to deal with data redundancy, where the same piece of data is stored in multiple locations. Firms may also comply with ISO 27001, Information Security, or 9001 Quality Management, in relation to their IT and/or EDMS systems. If you work in the construction industry, you may come across Building Information Modeling (BIM). This will be discussed in depth in the relevant pathway-specific books. However, large amounts of data will be processed during a project's life cycle, including structured data, for example schedules or a BIM model, and unstructured data, for example emails, photographs or meeting notes. If you are using BIM, you will need to understand how BIM documentation and data are stored within models and software. You may also come across technical libraries in various shapes and sizes that store different data and documents, including product information, journals, articles, and books. Blockchain is a reasonably new technology that has increased use in the property industry. In simple terms, blockchain can automate transactions, create smart contracts, and store all information about an asset, including ownership. Key legislation. All surveyors need an excellent working knowledge of the Data Protection Act 2018 and the UK General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, the primary legislation affecting data management in the UK. These repealed the former Data Protection Act 1998 and originally implemented the EU General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, before Brexit. The 2018 Act applies to data controllers, who determine how and why personal data is processed, and processes, who act on behalf of a controller. There are 7 fundamental principles that you need to be aware of: lawfulness, fairness and transparency, purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, integrity and confidentiality, accountability. There are also 8 individual rights that you need to be aware of. Right to be informed, right of access, right to rectification, right to erasure, right to restrict processing, right to data portability, right to object, rights concerning automated decision-making and profiling. The penalty for non-compliance is a fine up to the greater of £17.5 million, or 4% of global annual turnover. The Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations 2003, as amended, provide additional regulation for e-communications, including electronic marketing and website cookies. Consent from recipients for these to be received must be provided expressly, i.e., opt-in checkbox. Additional legislation comes in the form of the Freedom of Information Act 2000. This gives the public the right to request information held by public authorities. If a written request is submitted, the public body must provide a written response within 20 working days. This can give the information, potentially with a fee payable, or refuse to provide the information, including an explanation. When an instruction is completed, you must ensure that your file is organized and stored for a sufficient period. Under the Limitation Act 1980, claims can be brought up to 6 years from the date of the breach, i.e., when the service was provided or the loss was suffered, and extended to 12 years if the contract was made under deed. Claims can also be brought up to 12 years from the date of knowledge of the damage, subject to a 15-year-long stop date. You should check your firm's policy on data retention, which may vary for different types of data or documents. You may be asked to keep client, instruction or project data confidential via a confidentiality agreement, CA, or non-disclosure agreement, NDA. These will set out the specific restrictions and data the agreement applies to. Finally, intellectual property (IP) is something that you need to be aware of. This covers copyright, trademarks, design rights, and moral rights. Copyright is the most common form of IP you will likely come across in your role as a surveyor. This means that the author of the original work has exclusive rights to control the distribution of their work. This right can be licensed, transferred, or assigned to another party. For example, the surveyor owns the copyright to a valuation report. However, the client is licensed to use the report in connection with the purpose of the report. Copyright in this scenario would be breached if the report were to be published elsewhere by the client, without the consent of the surveyor, owner of the copyright. Another example is where an architect owns the copyright over their design documents. This must be considered when a developer purchases a site and intends to amend or use the original designs for marketing purposes. How can you demonstrate Level 1? Your assessors will start at the highest level you have declared, which will be Level 1. This means that you only need to state your knowledge, Level 1, and do not need to include any examples for this competency in your summary of experience. Typical questions will start with, tell me about your knowledge of, what do you know about? Or explain. You can substitute any data management principles outlined in this chapter to write yourself a set of sample questions. Reference list. Borix, 2017. Professional Statement Conflicts of Interest. Online, available at www.borix.org/content/dam/risk-global/documents/standards/January_2022_conflicts_of_interest_global_1sd_edition.pdf. Access the 14th of July